So today we are in Delft. We are doing, let's say, the first Rollz vlog, hopefully from a series of many to come. And what we want to show in Delft is that this city is beautiful and can be visited even by people that are using rollators and wheelchairs. And for that we have invited with us today Josephine. Josephine is the brilliant mind behind Able Amsterdam website, and I'm gonna let her speak about it a little bit in detail later. What we would like to see in Delft today is that of course a lot of tourists are coming to the Netherlands, and most of them are usually going to Amsterdam. But Amsterdam isn't the only beautiful spot to visit. There are many others, and hopefully we will be able to try all of them. But today we would like to start with Delft. So I would like to let Josephine tell us how did she, when and how did she started using a Rollz, because she was actually using a Rollz Motion, but a purple one.
Yep.
A purple one. And to tell us why Able Amsterdam and how did you came across this idea?
Okay. So first of all, I used the Rollz for about 2 years, starting around 2018. And the reason why I needed to use a Rollz was because I had an accident, and in my accident I shattered my entire right leg. And although breaking your leg is usually like a 6-week recovery time, when you really break your leg, you have months, or even in my case years, to be able to learn to walk again because of complications or further surgeries that you need, that kind of thing. So I used a rollator for a while, and then soon realized that I needed both a rollator and a wheelchair. So I have my wheelchair, I have my crutches, I have my rollator, but that means that you end up bringing like 3 different types of mobility aids in the car with you, or you have to make a decision which one you want to bring and which one you need, which can be difficult because often you want a mixture of both, but you just don't have the space. So I ended up finding out about the Rollz Motion, and I used the Rollz Motion for about 2 years during my recovery, and it was great because it just meant that I could walk as much as I physically could, and then when I needed a break I could have somebody who was with me push me in the wheelchair, transport chair, and I could still enjoy my day without having to worry about my leg hurting or feeling too tired or that kind of thing. So that's how I ended up using a Rollz Motion, but I don't need one anymore. So while I used a wheelchair, I suddenly realized that it was really difficult to find accessible places, or to know where you could easily go inside as a wheelchair user or a mobility aid user, where you could use the toilet, where you could basically go out and enjoy yourself without having to worry about accessibility. And as a new wheelchair user at the time, I figured there are lots of wheelchair users out there in the Netherlands. Disability isn't something that's only happened to me at the time. But, so I thought there'd be like a database out there that I could use to be able to find accessible places. And then I soon realized that there wasn't something like what I was looking for. So I decided to set something up myself. And it started with a little list on my phone of places that were wheelchair friendly. And then I soon realized that, I'm not the only one who needs this information. So I might as well make something to share it with people.
Well, one thing we have to say is that Josephine is not using a rollator anymore. Her recovery, I think, went very well from this view. But we have decided to bring a rollator here, because then we can exactly see how accessible the streets are and the places that we are going to visit. Because what we will do, we will simply pick up a couple of places that tourists usually want to visit when they come in Delft, and we will go in those places as if we would go with somebody that is using a rollator.
Yeah.
So let's see the next stop. Step 1 is traveling from Amsterdam to Delft.
Yes.
How is that for a rollator wheelchair user?
Well, traveling from Amsterdam to Delft is really easy. It's just 1 hour by train, and there are direct trains that go from Amsterdam to Delft. If you feel that you need to get assistance in the use of a by booking it online, and then somebody will meet you with a ramp at the platform, and somebody will meet you with a ramp at the destination as well, in this case Delft.
Cool. So then everything else just runs smoothly in the station itself. And,
yes, in the station there are also lifts, and as you may have seen when I walked out, there was also a button at the revolving doors to make them go slower. So if you prefer to walk slower, or if you need a little bit more time, then the revolving door goes like one circle in a slower motion, and then you can walk a lot safer.
Yeah, that's great. Let's go further.
All right.
So we are in Delft Museum, and we found very nice artworks here. Can you tell us a little bit more about the museum and the accessibility in the museum?
Yeah, of course. So we've actually recently become a real museum since the 1st of July, a registered museum. And that means that we can work much more on our accessibility right now. So as of now, we have 3 wheelchairs that you can borrow. And we also have ramps in the whole buildings that you can use to walk around the building. And you can even go into the inner garden. So it's all accessible.
How has the accessibility changed since officially becoming a museum?
Well, we really want everybody to be able to visit our museum. So yeah, we purchased new wheelchairs, new ramps, and we're still working on that towards the future. So
Great.
hopefully in the future maybe we'll even have lifts and things like that. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Sounds
it's
good.
only going to increase from here, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we've been walking around, we saw some very nice little cute streets, we saw the market,
Yep.
we had a coffee. Is Delft accessible?
I think from what we've seen, the outside, there's lots of sidewalks with slopes, which makes it much easier when you're using a mobility aid that has wheels to just kind of wheel your way down through the streets. There's also bridges that don't have steps, so that means that with a mobility aid you can also easily cross the bridges to get to different parts of the city. And as we've seen, so for example, the museum that we went to had a lot of very good accessibility features too. We did also have some challenges. For example, some of the pavements, the sidewalk can be too narrow with a mobility aid, so it means that you sometimes have to walk across the road as well. But in general, with my Rollz here, I think we had a pretty good trip today.
So what should people focus on if they are planning a day out?
I think the main thing is to plan well in advance and to do as much research as possible before you go out, just so you know how accessible your day is going to be and to know which places are good places to visit. So, for example, if you want to visit a museum, I think the best thing to do is to call in advance or email in advance, just so that you know that you can get the answers to the accessibility questions that you have. Sometimes if you read things on the internet, it's not always from the perspective of somebody who uses a rollator. So people may say a place is accessible but not really know what your needs are. So I think the best thing to do is do as much research as possible, call in advance when you can, and be as specific as possible about the accessibility features that you need so that you know if a place suits your needs. If you're looking to go to an accessible restaurant, I think the biggest tip would be to call in advance and to really explain which features you need for accessibility. One of the biggest things in this case is an accessible toilet. And again, I think it's best to call in advance, explain what you need, and then see if the restaurant that you want to go to is suitable to your accessibility needs. So
that was all. We thank you very much for this lovely experience in Delft. From the entire Rollz team and Josephine, we say goodbye. And we'll see you next time, maybe in a different city.
bye.
Bye!